Okay, Doc. So we're going around the world today, and now we have a question from Norway. So we have this 52 years young Norwegian man, currently on SSRI, Cipralex for 4 years, 20 milligram, primarily for GAD, social anxiety. Have experienced gynecologist during the last 3 years. I was wondering if it would be better to start up on TRT instead of SSRI, and if so, what dose? I've enclosed my blood work, and my doc says that the levels are good, and I cannot have TRT legally though. Been lifting weights 2 to 3 times a week for a couple of years now without any notable changes. I've become stronger, but still a lot of fat, especially in the abdominal / breasts. My eating is okay. Really need your advice sincerely. So I'll let you go over the blood test that we have.
Labs.
Yeah.
So this is in a language I'm not familiar with, but it's pretty close in terms of the roots. From what I read here, it looks like the free testosterone is on a scale of 2.3 to 9.9, 4.2, and that's an index. So there's nothing else attached. It's 4.2. So we've got a ratio there of some sort of index. They're calling it. LH is in the middle. SHBG is a little on the high side, not above normal. Looks like testosterone's in nanomoles per liter, above mid-range. Estradiol is in nanomoles per liter and less than the high end of normal, which means absolutely nothing. Normal, we've talked about that many times. We want optimal.
Yeah.
Is there any conversion? No. Well, here's what I can say in general about this one. At 52 years old, it's very likely that if you have the symptoms, that we'll find the testosterone levels match. In other words, if you have symptoms low T, I would assume that the levels are low. I apologize. I don't know how to interpret this as well as he may like me to, just because the units are different. And it says here again, S testosterone. I don't know what that means. S. Are we talking about your total here? Are we talking about your free? The SHBG, as I said, is a little on the high side. But at 52 years old, we're not going in the right direction, that's for sure. So whether it's now or later, eventually, let's speak as though this gentleman needs testosterone replacement therapy because of symptoms, which would include depression. So here we got a guy who's taking an SSRI for generalized anxiety disorder, and I'm assuming depression comes with that, but I shouldn't necessarily assume. What could testosterone do, instead of or in addition to? As we've talked about many times, testosterone gives you a sense of well-being, that joie de vivre. People quote me on that one often. I grew up with that word a lot. I guess
he started a trend.
Those words a lot.
Are people see me in the gym saying, "How's
no,
this joie de
making fun of
vivre?"
it is what I'm saying. You mean joie de vivre, doc? Joy of life.
Yes,
a term we bandied about often. At the age, I'm coming up on 55, so it was a while ago. This guy may know what I'm talking about. Anyway, SSRIs have a lot of side effects, and they're used ubiquitously as an antidepressant. Unfortunately, what we come to find out, if you look at what's now the Bible DSM-5 for psychiatrists, is it really states quite clearly that if you're going to have depression, it comes on in your late teens or early 20s, period. I mean, barring, getting in a car accident, bonking your head, in other words, and changing your chemistry, your brain chemistry. If it's in your genes, its onset is late teens, early 20s. Well, then how come we're giving it to people who haven't been in a car accident and changed their neurochemistry in their brain because of something physiological, a trauma? How come a lot of people get put on SSRIs when? About midlife. About the same time, you have a reason for being depressed. God forbid, your parents die, or you get divorced, and that ties in a whole nother way. What also happens about the same time midlife? Well, testosterone by definition starts to go south in men and women about age 35, right?
Yeah.
So here we give these. Well, we have depression, so we have antidepressants. What I call paint by numbers medicine. Well, we know we've been successful, very successful, more so than with SSRIs, and certainly with a better rationale, treating depression in females. Was the first study I remember reading back in the 1950s, using testosterone replacement therapy for those that needed it, obviously.
Yeah.
So, in a 52-year-old young man, my hallucination is his testosterone is probably low. Probably would be worth a trial instead of an SSRI, or with and then maybe come off the SSRI. This would be something he needs to discuss with his practicing physician that's overseeing him more closely. Certainly way more closely than I am able to at this point. But SSRIs have so many problems, one of which you'll read about is gynecomastia. Now, you can have problems with testosterone gynecomastia if you don't do it right. You don't just jump on some testosterone and not govern the estrogen. So in that regard, you still have to cover and watch out for gynecomastia. But I think it would be worth a try. I mean, he says he's wondering. Yeah, I wonder too.
Yeah.
I wonder why at 52, for only the last 4 years, have you been gutting it out all this time, or was its onset in your late 40s and it's because of low T?
Yeah. So
I think it'd be worth investigating, certainly, to see, and certainly keep up with the weightlifting, keep up with a good diet, get plenty of rest, and I don't know how you're going to beat. Didn't he say something about not being able to get TRT legally?
Yeah.
That's a bummer. Maybe you can go to a different country, or I don't know how you...
I know they have those patch over there, that gel, because I have a friend of mine who's getting that, but...
Probably a waste of time.
I know, as we said
as
earlier.
We've talked about many times.
It's not
underdosed.
Yeah.
But I guess bottom line answer, the question, I would look into it further, and that's definitely considerations for the reason I mentioned, that depression... Oh, well, and I hallucinated here that it's depression we're treating here. He's only mentioned social anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, but the two oftentimes go hand in hand. If you've got anxiety... I look at depression two ways, and I keep harping on it. I don't mean to, except to explain why. Either a lack of flow. You've heard people talk about things just aren't flowing for me. That's the way I like to describe it. Because of a lack of, say, fluid in the river, so there's no flow, or a lack of flow because you've got a dam in the river. You've got too much. You've got fluid, if you will, in this analogy, that's trying, in a 3-foot diameter pipe that's trying to all of a sudden get through a 1-diameter pipe. Well, what happens? The physics is, you get turbulence there and you get less flow, so you can be depressed. So I would call that, my crummy analogy, an anxiety-based depression, where you've got too much flow. So again, I know he's not treating that, so I don't know why I went off on such a tangent, except to link the two, because an SSRI is generally considered mainly for depression, also for anxiety. But when you get your sense of well-being and that joie de vivre back, you don't tend to be as anxious. When you feel good and hey, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to tackle whatever I need to tackle, you're not anxious about it.
That's right.
One of the things that happens, and this I'll tie it together finally, when guys and gals come into my office and talk about their symptoms, most don't mention the fact that they're insomniacs, or they'll get to sleep easy, usually exhaustedly, but they'll wake up after 4 or 5 hours and start ruminating about whatever it is, the 2.3 kids and the mortgage or something. And they find that after the therapy kicks in, they go, wow, and you know what? I don't get up in the middle of the night anymore. I sleep through the night. I sleep great now. They didn't think about it, and sometimes we talk about it, sometimes we don't, depending on what comes up. But why? Because you have that sense that, hey, when you get up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, and your body, your brain starts talking to you about what you got to do the next day, and starts to, give you cause to pause. You say, shut up, brain.
Yeah.
I'll handle it when I get up at 5 a.m, like I always do, full of vigor.
Yeah.
Like you did when you were 20, let's say. Think about similarly when you have the flu. The world sucks for the week or two that you have. I'm talking about the real flu. Nothing's changed when the flu goes away. Or before you got the flu, it's the same world, but it really sucks because you don't feel good and you feel like, oh, I can't handle things.
Right.
So you get that joie de vivre back,
Yeah.
and that kick in the pants that testosterone will give you when it's lacking and replaced, and the anxiety can go away.
Nice. Thank you, Doc.